Right, an expectant hush fell on the theatre as they say, welcome everyone to Austin Court for this year's autumn catch-up of the Transport Technology Forum. If that wasn't what you're expecting, you're in the wrong room. Show of hands, who has not been to the autumn catch-up before? Anyone at all? Quite a lot of you. Okay, so it's a day full of fun and frolic, I can promise you that much, I'm sure. You've got the agendas, I'm not going to read them out to you, and undoubtedly you've clicked on the link and got the Wi-Fi connection. I'm sure you've got a sense of what the agenda is today. But broadly speaking, the importance of these events for the sector, for what you do, and for the department, which you'll hear quite a bit about later, is in sharing increasingly not the things that transport technology could do, but the things that it is doing, because this evidence is so important. I'll come back to that in a sec. And if you're hovering at the top of the steps, do come on down. We've saved this row of seats down the front for you, right down here. Oh, he's urgently gone to get a cup of coffee. Extraordinary. Right, now look, seriously, come back to what I should be saying to you. First up, housekeeping. We're not expecting the fire alarm to go off. If it does, you can see green signs above the doors. We'll be shown out beyond the courtway, but hopefully the building will not catch fire. If you have, astonishingly, I would ask for a show of hands, but I can guess, if you have a mobile telephone, if you could set the ringer to silent, that would be a kindness. If you need to take a call, by all means do. If it's an interesting one, please put it on speaker and we'll silence the presenters for a bit and hear what's going on. The only other thing I was going to pick up by way of introduction is just to reflect momentarily that we are in interesting times for a variety of reasons. But specifically, if you've been watching the mood music coming out from our new government in this country, it won't have escaped your notice that the Chancellor of the Exchequer has announced her budget. I know that Anthony will say something about that, as will Darren a bit later, but also announced that a fundamental cross-Whitehall spending review is underway, expected to conclude in late spring next year. In association with that, she has set up an infrastructure review, which is mainly a funding review with a panel of city experts and fundraisers. That the Department for Business has launched the work to create the industrial strategy with 6 identified areas for growth. And what's called, if you've read it, you'll know, a set of foundational sectors. That's you, right? Because transport is a foundational sector recognised by government that if that doesn't work, the other 6 aren't going to work either. The Ministry of Housing, back to the old name now, has announced that it is going to have a planning bill going into Parliament in the spring. A lot of things happening in the spring. And is getting on with also planning where all of the extra houses are going to go. And the Department for Transport, the Secretary of State for Transport, has announced that there will be an integrated transport strategy. Anyone remember the last one? Sure. I'm just going to say, I'm looking out here, and I'm telling you this, most of you actually do remember John Prescott and the integrated transport strategy. You might not admit it, but I know who you are. Anyway, there's going to be another one along in a minute. That's being developed, as indeed is the Secretary of State for Transport's infrastructure review, which is not the same as the Chancellor of the Exchequer's infrastructure review. And I mention all of that because there is a lot going on, a lot of different initiatives running. How do these things all seamlessly connect to each other? I'm not convinced that they do right this second, but they will come together in the early months of next year. And it is absolutely mission critical that you are helping Anthony and Darren and the team with the evidence that will get more money put into making our road network work, because if you don't, they will not be able to do that, and we will lose out in the spending review. We will not be the foundational sector that the rest of the growth sectors need, and this is not an outcome any of us will want. And most importantly, perhaps out of that, this will turn out to have been the last meeting of the Transport Technology Forum, and what a tragedy that would be for you, your families, who are all enjoying today without you. So, there is work to be done here. Now, the important thing, I said, events like this today are a tremendous opportunity both for you to hear directly from the guys in the DFT about what they're up to, what's happened, what's changed since we last met, but also to hear about some things that are actually happening out there in the real world of getting people where they need to be, about initiatives that are working, so that Anthony and Darren can harvest and hoover up the good examples, the good practice, the evidence that they're going to need to make the case for highways and transport.